Okay, I think you're going to find this interesting. Can academic hatred of God lead to fraud? Let's find out. Okay, my friends, this is academic fraud, and it's based on the responsible science to ensure the integrity of research process. Well, what is academic fraud? Well, here's the things that apply to me. There's all kinds of things. Academic fraud involves deliberate effort to deceive and includes plagiarism, fabrication of data, misrepresentation of historical sources, tampering with evidence, and the selective suppression of unwanted or unacceptable results and theft of ideas. Both of those things have happened to me from Yale University 10 years ago. Let's just start out with plagiarism and theft of ideas. This is from November 2016, and this is Yale's paper, Derek Briggs, who I presented all my stuff to. And they claimed that, yes, everything I said was correct. Exceptional preservation of soft-bodied creatures promoted by silica-rich oceans. Precisely what I sent to them years before this. So, is that academic fraud? Sure looks like it to me. Okay, let's start with plagiarism. This I sent long before this, but this was my final paper that I sent to Yale on 11/2015, about the fascia being the thing that held everything together after the Great Flood. And I said the silicon in the skin is 50 times more silicon than other tissues. That's what created the perfectly preserved fossils that Yale took credit for. Exceptional preservation promoted by silica-rich oceans. It was one worldwide flood. And this was a year after I presented all to them. And then they just basically rewrote my article. It's all about the same thing. Same thing. Perfectly preserved, exceptional preservation. And they are. So now let's take selective suppression of unwanted or unacceptable results by Yale. All right, these are DNA tests done back in 2015, well over a year before they published their paper taking credit for my work. There was 3 samples, and they were done in the most perfect way possible. And they're still available to be tested. I have them here. There's nothing that I'm hiding. And all 3 of them came back as human mitochondrial DNA, and 2 of them were giants. That's what freaked them out. All right, unacceptable and unwanted results. Excellent quality DNA was obtained from a 36-inch sample and from the lung. These are the Homo sapien, and this is a top shelf test. It was expensive. It took 3 months to do, and it was presented to Yale, and they dismissed it because it was unacceptable. Okay, I believe I showed you the DNA reports, and what did I have cats DNA tested? Well, this is a hand, and it's over 3 feet wide. I don't know, this goes back 15 years. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's between 3 and 4 feet wide. It's a left hand, and that is the grip skin, this silver stuff. That's what's called grip skin, friction skin, and it peels right off because it's very dense, and that's where the 50 times the silicon came from, which I reported to Yale, and then they claimed that they figured it out. Well, this is the cleave between your hand right there. And that's the tendon that runs down just like you have one. And I have some fingers from this and knuckles and so forth. And I had one of the fingers CAT scanned. Now, you don't get a lot of detail because this is called nucleophilic substitution. Now, that is the fingernail from this, and this is the fingertip itself. You wouldn't see that. It's there, but you really can't see it. Now, on the end, you can see the tendons and the blood vessels. So I'll show you the end shot. All right, this is the fingertip. I broke this piece off right here, which surrounds right on the edge of the bone, which is this piece here, to get down and look into the blood. Now, what do we see from the back of the fingertip? Those both are tendons. And that's the black side, which is the vein side, which has the dark blood, the magnetite blood. And this has the hematite blood. It runs right out. But that's where that little blood vessel was, and that's where that blood vessel was. That is the cord that runs up from the tendon. And that tendon would have attached right to here. It runs right up through here, and it would have locked right on in here to make the hand move. And I have all the anatomical pictures of all this. But these are the two spots that bring the tendon up, so you can do this with your finger. And that's the bone. This is a lung. DNA tested, CAT scan. No question whatsoever, it's a lung. It has all exactly the same architecture. Well, here, let me show you something. And again, they all died in this flood, and they all turned flat on one side. You see how flat that is? And the reason the lungs and all that stuff disassociated from the bodies is because it was a hot water flood. And this is a hair follicle. And you say, oh, come on, Roger, that can't be a hair follicle. The guy would have to be a zillion miles tall. Well, maybe he was. Because this, my friend, is a hair follicle. That is where the muscle attached, the little pili erector muscle, that makes your hair go up on end. This is the hair shaft. It goes down and comes up through the top. This is where the sebaceous glands attach, right over there. Pili erector muscle, sebaceous gland, the root, and not only that, it has the vein and artery right there. All transformed from nucleophilic substitution, but the size of this creature was ginormous. This is what freaked out all of them. They all freaked out. They cannot accept it. We have new species. That's what I call no-toes, and they have springs inside of them instead of bones. But the toes are built inside. This is a travesty of intelligence. It's a destruction of the human mind. It's called menticide, and it's done by, in this case, Yale. This fingertip is approximately 3 feet long. This was DNA tested, and I broke this piece off right here so I could get down into the blood. And when I did, it came off, and it actually has the fingerprints on it. And here it is right there. These are the fingerprints. Those are sweat pores. It breaks right off just like this. And you can't get any DNA out of there. So I had to go down deep inside to the blood. And I did. It came out excellent quality DNA. It was virtually like red blood came out of there. These things held the blood in them. It's incredible. I had one guy, he popped it, and it just blood ran right out. And I have them the same way, so it's not just one off. They're all over the place. And the meat here stayed just like fresh meat, only there's the fascia that's on top of the meat. All right, it has to be in certain conditions, but to refuse to examine it by Yale, who is supposed to be the ones that we rely on for truth. Now, what is their obligation? I mean, certainly to the students. They have an obligation to search for truth. I mean, obviously. And they have a fiduciary obligation, which is a legal obligation to them to look out for their best interest, this was to their best interest because it was too much for them to handle. I had every bit of evidence. This is suppressed, unwanted evidence. I'm just going by what I see as the legality of it and the immorality of it. From one of our top universities, supposedly, but I have found no interest in anything there. I've sent this to the president, to all of them, right down the line. I sent all the stuff, and I said, this is a disgrace. You people are a disgrace. But nothing. They can just be quiet, and everything will be fine. Not this time. You see that? Unwanted. Why doesn't anybody have an interest in this academic realm? The reason is because they'll be fired. And I know they do get fired. And I wrote a book about Velikovsky because he was destroyed by the same people that are just trying to destroy me. But I'm not going to let it happen this time. We have these. They have springs instead of bones. And we have lots of them. No, it's just one or two. Okay, my friends, get ready because Mudfossils has decimated geology, archaeology, paleontology, and history. And people like this are standing in the way of truth. These were found right near the University of Missouri, and the guy there who knows Derek Briggs at Yale said, oh, those are just rocks. Those are nothing, they're just rocks. I said, no. And I said, I'm going to be doing I'm going to make this very difficult on you if you won't engage with me, and no engagement. And the same thing with my other friend, Phil, who was in that area, right down the road. He tried to engage with him, same thing, forget about it, nope. And he's the one that's supposed to be investigating this exact petrification process. Okay, my friends, these are engineered feet. That's the heel, this is the strap, and these are two springs that are built right in. And so this was like somebody's talking about spring-heeled jack or something, or they always talked about over in Europe. Well, this was found right here in Connecticut, United States of America. Like I said, these CAT scans were done, the DNA tests were done, all of the specimens, as far as I'm concerned, were examined, and I sent all this stuff to Yale and Harvard, all of them, and more than this, much more than this. And I was dismissed at every single turn of the page. Now that's not an accident. That's not, and nobody is this incompetent. When you are presented with DNA tests and CAT scans and specimens, and it's nothing you can dismiss. It can't be dismissed. It can't be, certainly out of hand. Maybe I'm a fraud, maybe I'm lying, maybe I'm misrepresenting things, but I don't think so. To send me back from this friend of Derek Briggs, and this just happened a couple days ago, he said, oh, no, those are just rocks, they're nothing. Forget about it, see you later. And I said, no, this is not going to float, my friend. And then he just went hiding, just like they all do. They just hide out and they hope for the best. Well, the best is not going to work out this time. You want to see something else? Look at this. This is the bottom of the foot. I think they had these things built. This almost looks like a like a wing nut, doesn't it? I don't know. Can you see that? Looks like a wing nut right there. I'm telling you, this stuff is just off the charts crazy. But it is reality. Now, that is what people go to school for, is to learn reality. And I had presented it long before, so I got some ideas, and I would think of $150 million from Yale would get us started to start a new school, which present reality. And this is the biggest discovery in human history, basically, since Jesus Christ was here. And they've laughed at him, and they think he's a joke. Well, no. He's not the joke. Like I said, some of them have blood just can run right out of them. This thing had blood leaking out of it. It's a lung. This was DNA tested, CAT scan and everything else. That's a lung too. And that had just as much blood, but it's inside. This is what bubbled out of the other one. The other one, the pleura, which is this coating, was gone. And it's just, they sort of seeped out of these little spots. But this has the same amount of blood inside of it as well. Because it's completely sealed up like a rubber bag. All right, talking about blood coming out of rocks, here's one right here. This is, I believe, a heart. And a friend of mine, Phil Harris, saw this laying there, and he saw the red spot, and he smacked it with a hammer. It split right there. And that is typical of a heart. It has a specific plumbing that sits right on top of the bucket. And that's where the bucket of blood was. Okay, this is about an hour or so after it came out and was broken. And this is where all the plumbing goes in at the top. The aorta and so forth sits just like a bunch of plumbing right on top. I'll show you. And this was about after an hour. It oxidized the red blood. You see this? This is what happened with Phil. He found that rock like that, and when he smacked it, you could see a little red spot coming out of here somewhere in this area. He smacked it, and it just, the top broke right off, and you could see right down into the bucket of blood. Okay, so like I say, $150 million I think would probably get us started. And I don't know, what do you give, 20% to the lawyer or something like that? They could live off of that for a while. And I just don't want to be involved. I just want it to be handled and start to educate people from a Mudfossil University, which is my school. My school is the only school right now that's teaching the truth about anything. History is totally wrong. Geology, ridiculous. Physics is wrong, and I do research in every realm, and I can show you electrons in flight and I can show you fission and fusion. And that's also denied to be seen by Fermilab. Now, this is just not right. And it's time to take these hi-hats off and put them down to where everybody else is and say, let's look at the reality of things. To them, it's just a game, staying in business and getting those grants and all that money. That's all it is to them. I see no search for truth whatsoever. And if you can show me somebody that is, let's discuss anything. Anything. Let's talk about what's causing the global warming. The planet is scrubbing through space. It's spinning. Our atmosphere is scrubbing the particles that are in space. It's not a vacuum. It's 100% saturated with particles. That's what's warming it up. It's 2,700 degrees outside out here. Way out in the atmosphere, which is where it scrubs, called the ionosphere. The sun has a corona. What's that mean? On the surface, it's 10,000 degrees. At the corona, it's millions. No explanation for this whatsoever. The only reason is it's scrubbing through all the stuff it has to scrub through. All of that friction is what's creating all of this heat. And that's another one of my big, deep things is into physics and light research and showing the actual particles of light. If you think you don't care about history or fossils or any of that, none of this applies to you, well, you better think again. Because we can accelerate light very easily. That is light accelerating from a red pulsed laser. That is fission, that is fusion. Can I prove that? Absolutely. Here it is right here. The black and the white particles were together. They were called a muon neutrino, the black one, electron neutrino, the white one. When they hit a new medium, they go into shower mode, the white ones. The black ones stay just a little black ball. There it is right there. And here is the particles before they exploded. You see that? This is what they look like. Those are photons. All right? And when they, normally it goes like this, it's not accelerated. Then it accelerates because of the Venturi. When it hit the Venturi, the black separated from the white. That's fission, and then it's fusion. All right, can somebody deny that? Are we not looking at muon neutrinos and electron neutrinos, the black and the white, and they separate? This is called a Dirac neutrino, a muon and an electron together. They're the Diracs. And two of them back to back make up a photon. It's the smallest stable particle there is, a photon. So, I mean, I have so much evidence now, and every realm I've looked into, nobody's interested in discussing it because it upends the things that they're saying. You see these particles? The red ones? They're exactly like the green and the blue. You see that? The green are the same particles. Here they are right there. And this part here is just before they turn into photons. They're in their neutrino phases. They say they change flavors. The red ones do the same thing. The red ones do the same thing. They change different flavors, and then they turn into a regular photon. So we're talking about a complete upending of education. Mudfossil University right now owns education. There is no education that you can rely on. If you bring it past us here at Mudfossil University, we'll let you know if it's right or not. All right, just so I can present my little case here. This is what Fermilab sees is a black particle, never changes size, and this one gets big and small. It's exactly what we find, and light has two of them back to back. They're like two little bar magnets. And this, my friends, is a photon. Just one of this set is what's called a Dirac neutrino, which is literally an electron. But the electron part is this. This is dark matter. Now, what happens when that dark matter separates from the white matter? It's called fission. Fission means to break something apart. When it comes back together, it's fusion. This is what it looks like as it's coming on down the line. When it hits the Venturi here, the black separates from the white. That's fission. That's fusion. Here it is coming down the line as this particle here. It never gets it will never break apart until it goes through the Venturi, and only the white can get through because it's tuned to a very tight specification. And only the white goes right through, and the black smashes it through, slaps it through. Here it is right there. That's fission, that's fusion. How about some Nobel Prizes for that? What do these people do getting Nobel Prizes for? It's amazing how they award themselves all these kind of things and then absolutely refuse to engage with reality. It's unbelievable, but I'm just putting it out there on the street. Let's see what happens. All right, I'm just going to leave it at this, but I did dipole electron flood theory replaces the standard model. This was the paper I put up on academia, but I had another paper up there which had a couple of little quirks in it, but that was from 2019. This is from 2022, but it absolutely replaces the standard model. Standard model does not work, and they're starting to pick up on that. But I got all of this was me. I said dark matter is explained in a universe of dipole electrons. All right, and it is. Dark matter is attached to the white matter. Electron flood theory discussed. Roger Spur, model prediction on characteristics of dipole atoms. Universal electron flood theory. This is all my stuff. And so it's been up there for a long time, and nobody will talk to me about it. I found the particles, exactly the same particles as Fermilab was looking for, and refuses to talk to me. They told me don't ever contact them again. This is the kind of stuff you run into with people that are in power. As far as I'm concerned, I see no interest in the actual truth of the matter. It's interest in preserving their status.